Coming up right now, though, folks, is the Michigan Man Top 10, the 10 best players for Michigan so far this season. We'll dive right in and go to number 10. At number 10, James, a player that, maybe we don't want to see on this list, but he remains on there because of other factors surrounding the Michigan offense in particular. It is kicker Quinn Nordin.
Tom, Quinn Nordin is a phenomenal kicker. He might win Kicker of the Year this year. He might be your best kicker in America. Maybe. It depends. I haven't really tracked kickers too much, but he's had a phenomenal season so far. And for a while, Tom, he was up in the top 5 of this list because he's Michigan's maybe their best offensive player sometimes. Which
I think early in the year.
Kind of sad to say, but Quinn Nordin has been a phenomenal kicker all year. 14 of 18. He's hit a 55-yarder. I believe it was a 51-yarder, both in that Florida game. Has missed a couple of extra points recently, which is kind of, I guess, one and a field goal.
He missed one against Minnesota, and I think he missed one the week before that as well. He's been a little bit iffy lately.
Yeah, so a couple of field extra points, which is really strange from a guy that who can hit from so deep. But Quinn Nordin, I love that he's just a redshirt freshman. I love his haircut, Tom. He's got the Wild Thing haircut.
Mention that every time.
And there's multiple games this year, Tom. This Florida game being one of them, and then the Indiana game, that if Nordin wasn't in that game, Michigan could have lost multiple games.
I think probably they do lose those games.
Yeah, I mean, he scored 15 points, I think, in the Indiana game. Or I might get my games wrong, but there's one game he hit 5 field goals, and that was the difference of the game. Maybe it was the Purdue one, actually. But he's been a phenomenal player this year. I'm going to keep him in the top 10 unless a receiver or multiple, a quarterback. If Brandon Peters throws for 400, maybe he gets in the top 10. But Quinn Nordin is maybe the second best player in this offense behind Karan Higdon so far this year.
All right, folks, we will keep it moving. Then we will head to number 9 on our list. And at number 9, a new entry. He's been on in the past, though, but at number 9, Chris Evans, the halfback, reemerges, James.
Yeah, he was a staple of this list in past last year as Michigan's maybe their best running back in 2016. But a touchdown 2 weeks ago, another touchdown this week. He's been a little bit of a safety valve for Brandon Peters. They came in together, Tom, as recruits, both of the state of Indiana. I'm sure there's some sort of connection there. Like, yo, I'm from India, just like me and you, Tom. Both Ohio guys doing a Michigan show. And he caught that pass for a touchdown. And then he's just shown the ability to break tackles the last couple of weeks that he's never shown in his career at Michigan. On those 2 touchdown runs, he broke at least 4 tackles in each one. So Chris Evans is back. I hope they continue to get him carries, and I like the fact that he's only a sophomore. He's got a couple more years in front of him.
Yeah, an incredible game against Minnesota. 13 carries, almost 200 yards.
This is the one right there.
And
That's
2
the tackle
TDs.
I'm talking about.
That was a nice run right there by Chris Evans. He is your number 9 Michigan Man of the Year. We'll keep it rolling. Go to number 8 on our list, and at number 8, James, we're going to go to the offensive side of the ball. Again, Mason Cole, the top lineman for Michigan.
We had taken Cole off the list. He got in there a while back, got off the list. But, I want to keep him on all the time. But there's one week he stepped up a few weeks back. But Mason Cole has been the best offensive lineman in the team. And given that offensive line group, they're hot, what the running backs are doing, and that Peters, except for a couple plays, one where true freshman Cesar Ruiz totally whiffed on a block. Brandon Peters hasn't really been touched. And
he got lit up on that play.
He did get lit up. We were watching that when you thought he might have been out for the game.
I still think he had a concussion that wasn't properly handled.
Breaking news. But Mason Cole has been the best player on the offensive line. He's a 4-year starter at Michigan, and I'm glad to see it all kind of come together. I thought for a while he was better as a true freshman than he was as a sophomore and a junior, and now he's proven as a senior that he's the kind of player that we all thought he would be.
Right, we'll head now to number 7 on our Michigan Man Top 10, and at number 7, it's Khaleke Hudson, fresh off the incredible game against Minnesota. But James, after what he did against the Golden Gophers, why is he only 7?
Yeah, because it's the rest of the Big Ten season where he was actually, for a while, a liability on defense in several games, Tom, where he was getting beat in the running game for sure. He wasn't shedding blocks at all. I saw several times where a running back went his direction, most notably against Penn State, a running back or quarterback, where he was completely lost. And so he fell off this list and fell way out of this list for a while. So that game got him back into the top 10, but he needs to put 1 or 2 more of those, at least near that range, to get up into the top 2 or 3 over guys that have done it all year, like Maurice Hurst or like Devin Bush.
Mm-hmm. Again, the game against Minnesota, 15 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss. It set the Big Ten record.
That's insane.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's insane.
All right, we'll go now to number 6, and this is as we get to more and more defensive players on this list, which shouldn't be much of a surprise, James. It's Rashan Gary.
Yeah, I wish he had more sacks, Tom. 2.5 sacks for a guy like him this late in the season. I think is a little underwhelming. Only 1 forced fumble. So the stats don't tell the story. It's really the eye test with Rashan Gary. He gets doubled, he gets tripled. I think him and Mo Hurst have both benefited from each other, and I think Chase Winovich has probably benefited from both of them the most, and the linebacker crew. Yes. If we go back if we think about one position back, we've got Khaleke Hudson. He doesn't make all those tackles for loss unless it's guys like Rashan Gary and the rest of the defensive line who are just all over the place, freeing up the linebackers to get into the backfield and make those kind of plays.
And here's some of the highlights from that Florida game. I want to point this out, and you kind of mentioned this, James. He's been drawing a ridiculous amount of attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he gets doubled up almost every play, and if he doesn't get double time, it's when they're running a play to the opposite side of him, usually a running play, so he doesn't even get a chance to make a big play. We saw in those Florida highlights, though, there have been many plays where they've thrown it to the other side of the field or done like a jet sweep, and Gary has chased down the play and made a tackle from 15 yards on the opposite side of the field and come out of nowhere and made a tackle. So he does have some speed on him, and he's I kind of thought when he was a recruit, he reminded me of a little bit of like a chubbier player, but he's pretty lean. Maybe he just looks a little thick in the neck, but he's a pretty lean guy when you look at him up close.
Let's get into the top 5 then. At number 5, it is the cornerback Lavert Hill. Now, he didn't have a tackle against Minnesota. Didn't have one against the Scarlet Knights either. That's because teams aren't even throwing near him anymore.
It's the no-fly zone.
They are avoiding Lavert Hill at all costs, and it's showing.
It's the no-fly hill, Tom. That's what we're calling it now. I just coined that phrase. And he's been – I think you could say outside of a few of the plays made by Jordan Lewis last year, Hill has had as big of an impact on this defense as that Lewis did on last year's defense. Now, Lewis had more game-changing plays, most notably the Air Jordan catch against Wisconsin. But Hill has been phenomenal. They just don't throw him the ball, Tom. It's like you never hear his name called because he's not giving up many passes. And you could say the same thing about his counterpart, David Long. The fact that Michigan lost 2 seniors that were both 3-year starters to the NFL or otherwise in Stribling and Jordan Lewis, and Hill and Long have filled in. They haven't missed a beat. I think it really speaks to the level of coaching they're getting and the talent they have.
It's not always the case, but normally when you see low tackle stats for the cornerback, that means they're not giving up any catches, and that's the case this year with Hill.
Yep.
We'll go now to number 4 on our Michigan Man Top 10, the 10 best players this year for Michigan. At number 10, James, it is Devin Bush, the tackling machine.
Yeah, he, like Hudson, had a little bit of a quiet middle part of the season when, didn't really do much in games against Penn State, Michigan State, a little quiet in some other games. But he had a really nice game against Minnesota under the lights, kind of reestablished himself as the man on that Michigan defense, the guy that I think just pops off the screen with his speed and of course his hair hanging out the helmet is always going to stick out. But he's back and playing great, and Michigan's defense wouldn't be the same without him. So he's been pretty much a staple in the top 3 or 4 the entire season.
And he's a pretty effective pass rusher too. I mean, he's not supposed to be your typical edge rusher, but he has 5.5 sacks this year, and it's the speed. The speed pops on tape, and that's a key factor for this Michigan defense.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Without Devin Bush, I don't know how good this defense actually is. And I think you say that about kind of all these guys on this list, but with Devin Bush, again, only 4 for Michigan. For a team like Maryland, easy number 1 guy.
Tom, you know what I love about this list? Everybody in this list, except for we'll get into them, but it's pretty obvious Mo Hurst will be on it. Everybody in this list comes back next year.
Good thing. All right, we'll get now to number 3 then on our Michigan Man Top 10. Yet another defensive player, Chase Winovich, who has just been the sack machine for Michigan, benefiting from playing with Mo Hurst and Rashan Gary.
I can't say enough how much Winovich has. He got some playing time last year, and people said, "Chase, who is this guy?" When Taco Charlton went down, and he has proven to be just as good as Taco, I think, and he's still got another year ahead of us. So his stats are phenomenal. He makes an impact almost every game. He's probably the one defender, Tom, that I don't think him and Mo Hurst, the ones that you could say every game they've had a good game. I haven't seen one down game from either one of those guys. You could say about the corners, the linebackers, everybody else had games where they didn't play that well. But Winovich is one that is not, and that's why Tom, he kind of popped out of the list to high in the list. Now he's been in the top 2 or 3 the last 3 or 4 weeks, and he's going to stay there.
He has been. We'll get now to number 2 as we get to the highest rated offensive player this year from Michigan. I think most people know who this is. It is Karan Higdon. Didn't get a lot of work early, James, but since then, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, so he's going to be Michigan's first 1,000-yard back, Tom, since 2011, and prior to that, since 2007. So they've had 1,000-yard back in the last 10 seasons. Higdon's about to be that. Multiple 200-yard-plus games this year, Tom. 10 touchdowns. I mean, this is the best season Michigan's had out of running back really since 2006 with Mike Hart, going back 11 years. 2007, Mike Hart was injured and didn't have that great of a year his senior year. So, and Higdon, you know what? He's going up against the handicap of really not playing the first 3 games. So those stats are on 6 games, Tom, basically. And by the way, just so we throw that out there, he has the exact, almost within a few yards, the exact same rushing stats as one Saquon Barkley.
Impressive. And I want to throw this out there as well. He might get to 1,000 in this game against Maryland because he had 200 last week on 16 carries. Why not again?
Hey, he's Mr. 200. That's what he is, right? So I think it's possible. And against Maryland, I think you're going to see, and I go back to Brandon Peters' talk, but you're going to see Michigan run the ball a heck of a lot. If Isaac isn't back, Tom, if some others that are injured aren't back, I think they have no choice but to give it to Higdon 15, 18, 20 times, and if he can make plays like that, 200 yards again.
All right, let's get then to our number 1 Michigan player this year. At number 1, it is the senior defensive lineman, James Maurice Hurst, who's been effective pretty much every game, especially as of late.
Tom,
he's really picked it up.
Throwing it back to you, as an NFL draft super expert, which you are, top 11 in the world, 7 in the world, whatever it was, is Hurst a top 5 pick?
I don't know if he's going to go top 5. My expectation is you're not going to see a defensive tackle go top 5. Typically you don't, even if they're disruptive. Every now and then you get a Solomon Thomas, but more often than not, it's the edge guys that go top 5. He'll be first-round pick, though. I'll be surprised if he isn't because the tackle for loss numbers, 10.5 already, he's disruptive. And he's not just a run stuffer. He's pretty effective in terms of getting sacks and into the quarterback. He's not going to be the 2-down defensive tackle. He is going to be the 3-down defensive tackle. That's why he'll be a first-round pick. He could be the first defensive tackle taken in this year's draft, and that wouldn't surprise me at all.
You know what?
Still plenty of time for everything to change, though.
You say defensive tackles aren't taken top 5, Tom. Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson.
Yeah, and how did he turn out?
I believe,
and how did he turn out?
Oh, phenomenal. I think he's got a Wikipedia page. That means he's famous.
Just because someone has a Wikipedia page doesn't mean that they're good in the NFL.
I disagree.
So, yeah, but in this new age NFL,
well,
pass rushers go early.
Hey, Big Daddy. That was his nickname for a reason.
Yes, it was Big Daddy. It was Big Daddy.